Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Peace and blessings, love and light, and welcome to this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. It's your girl, Kim Martin Raymond, and I am a minister, spiritual life coach, holistic nutritionist, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And welcome again to season 5. We are 4 weeks into 2025 and the 365-day challenge. And if that's something that is new to you, and if you are new to our channel, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here. Be sure to go to my website, www.hownowpodcast.com. Be sure to click on your favorite podcast platform. You see, we have many here: iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, iHeartRadio, all kinds of links that you can go to your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe. You can also scroll down to the bottom of the page where you'll see the banner for this week's show. And when you click on that banner, it'll take you to the How Now YouTube channel, where you can like, follow, share, and subscribe there as well. You can go to my playlist like Tuesday, or my other podcast that I do with Sharonda Barksdale, which is called Redefining Authenticity. You can also check in on some of the shows that you may have missed, and also find out what's going on in the 365-day challenge. And so again, go to www.hownowpodcast.com. And again, be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe. So let's get into tonight's show, where we'll still be continuing with our 365-day challenge. And this time we're going to be talking about overcoming obstacles that we may face as we're forming habits. Okay, we've been talking over these last 28 days about things that are small habits, or things that we're looking to create as habits from either existing ones or new ones that we are wanting to create in our effort to be the best version of ourselves. So, we've been, talking about some successes, some things that, some little tips and tricks along the way. And now, again, we want to talk about overcoming some of the obstacles. So we'll dive right in with talking about procrastination. That's something that happens. We get that analysis paralysis. We want to start. We don't quite know where to start. We don't know quite what to do. And that's why, for those of you who have gone onto the website and saw a little bit about what the challenge was about, I gave the option of either finding something that you want to create as a habit mentally, spiritually, and physically on a daily basis. But if it's too much, to break that into different parts and do the first 4 months of the year focusing on maybe just your physical, then the next 4 months focusing on your mental, and then the final 4 months focusing on your spiritual. So given the option of being able to do things so that way you're not trying to do so much at one time and find yourself lacking in motivation or procrastinating and starting because it becomes too overwhelming. So we want to make sure that we're taking those small steps, those small micro steps, to avoid, again, that feeling of overwhelm. So, as you're, creating your habits, think about what it is that you want to accomplish and how much are you able to accomplish. If it's something so simple as, I want to start exercising, that's a very broad, habit to try to create and to try to pinpoint exactly where you want to start. A micro habit that you can form when it comes to that is just simply putting on your shoes, or simply just putting on, a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, workout gear. Perhaps just looking at a few videos on YouTube going on there and looking and seeing what's something that you may be interested in. Maybe you want to start with weights. Maybe you just want to start with cardio. Maybe you want to start with riding a bike. Maybe you want to start with just walking up and down the stairs a couple of times. You're wanting to make it as palatable as possible. You want to be able to do something that is not going to feel so overwhelming that you get that analysis paralysis. I don't want to start, or I'll wait and let me start another day. It's just too much. You want it to be something that you can ease into, that's not going to be too difficult in the beginning. And then you build from there. And so, make sure that procrastination is not something that keeps you from being able to form that habit because of the fact that it's too overwhelming. It's too much at one time. Be easy about it. And remember, know your limitations. The one thing that you want to remember when we're talking about, this 365-day challenge is to know yourself. Be honest with yourself. Know what's something that you're capable of doing in a particular time frame. And is it going to be something that's measurable? Is that going to be something that's going to be attainable? Think about your SMART goals. Is it something that you're going to be able to commit to? Or that's something that's going to be easier for you to commit to, and that's going to avoid that procrastination. So that's just one of the obstacles that we see when we're talking about forming habits. Another one is just that life be lifing, y'all. We already know that. Those of you who have been following me on my 365-day challenge know that I have traveled to a couple of states already in just the first 4 weeks of this year. And I have hit different time zones. I have hit different weather patterns, and it has been a challenge, okay, in being consistent with some of the things that are going on. And so what happens is sometimes when life is lifing, it can cause an inconvenience. It can be inconvenient for you to be able to engage in the habits that you have. And, the one thing that helps with that is to be able to anticipate some of those things that could possibly happen. I know that I can be called to travel at the drop of a hat. I can be called to travel within the same week, or within the following week, or within the next month, to be putting a lot of trips on my calendar. I have trips already scheduled into February. And so, I have to prepare for that. I know that I'm going to have to go somewhere. And so I think about what are the things that I need to take with me. Some things are already habits for me. I know I exercise every single day at 5:30, so I automatically pack my weights. I automatically pack my resistance bands. I already have my playlist of exercises that I'm going to do on YouTube. So I download those things that I need. I also carry a book that has chair exercises in it. So just in case for some reason the technology fails, I'm still able to do my exercise. And I've been doing it consistently enough that I can follow along, in doing some of the exercises without having the support of YouTube or the books. But it's a matter of anticipating those things that can possibly happen. And, sometimes I'm not in a position to eat the foods that I like to eat, or that I like to prepare, especially when I'm traveling out of town. And so I have to make some adjustments. Or sometimes it's just doing the best that you can in the situation that you're in. And then you go and you course correct. You go back and do the things that you know to do when you're in a position to do them. So it's not like just because one day something goes wrong, or you're not able to carry out that habit that you were creating, there's always tomorrow. So we have to be in a space of being able to give ourselves a little bit of grace when something like this happens, and know that if it's just for that one day, we can turn around the following day and start again. There's no one saying that just because you messed up or you took a misstep that you can't step back on just like you stepped back off. Think about when you were riding a bike as a kid. Did you just, when you fell off the bike, did you just throw the bike into to the ground and just walk away and say, I'm never going to be on a bike again? Some people did, but be that person that thinks and says, okay, well, I'm not going to ever learn how to ride this bike if I don't get up and try to learn balance, or if I don't try to get up and try again. Okay, so when things happen, we want to be able to put ourselves in a position of saying, I'm not going to give up. What am I going to do differently? Even if we're talking about that bike, if we're still on that, suppose that bike, you're riding it and you run over a stick and you get a flat tire. Are you never going to ride the bike again, or are you going to go and see about getting that tire fixed? Or are you going to go and grab that little scooter and ride on that until your bike gets fixed? Those kinds of things. Things happen. What are some things that you can anticipate could possibly happen or could possibly thwart your efforts in carrying out that habit, and try to put some systems in place already? That's why your toolboxes are so important. That's why I pushed last year about toolboxes and creating them. What do we reach back to as a tool that we can use when something isn't working the way that we want it to? What have we prepared for that? What can we reach back for and use in order to repair something that's broken in any aspect of our lives? So that's something that we want to do. We want to prepare for when life starts lifing. Okay. And then the next thing that we want to talk about is our motivation. Sometimes your motivation ebbs. We know that it's January. How many people have started, have created, resolutions, and we're already coming up towards the end of January, and they're already like, okay, enough of this. Okay. The one thing that we have to keep in mind is that every day we're not going to be on 10. Every day we're not going to be like, I'm ready. Okay. There are things that are happening. I'll give you an example. I didn't post a show last week. Okay. And that was just because I had been traveling so much. I was tired and my body said, lay down. And I said, oh, but I didn't get a chance to post a show. And I had to say to myself, wait a minute. Those who are following your show and who are your listeners can go back and watch a show from the previous week. They can wait to see your show next week. There are ways that they can access things from you. You've given them an opportunity. You've talked about it in the introduction to your show. So don't be so hard on yourself when you miss an opportunity, and know that, okay, there's another one. And here I am this week, back and ready to go. I just was not motivated because life was lifing to be able to post a show. And sometimes that's going to happen because guess what? We're human. And because we're human, we have human emotions. We are spiritual beings living a physical and human experience. And some of that is being tired, being listless. I'm 55 years old, well, almost 55 years old. And, I'm going through perimenopause, all kinds of things. So my body is all out of whack. So every day I'm not going to be on 10. And even for our male listeners, every day is just not going to be a SpongeBob day. I'm ready. Let's go. That's not going to be the situation every single day. We're going to have times where our motivation ebbs, where we're not going to be on full throttle, ready to go. And so sometimes our moods will fluctuate, especially as women, that time of the month. There are certain days where I want to go and give myself a timeout. I need to go and sit down somewhere. And that's what I do. I listen to my body and I respond to it. Okay. But the one thing that we want to do, or the one thing that we want to remember, is that slow progression beats no progression. So again, even if we just do something small, okay, even though I didn't post my show, I still posted my 365-day challenge. So I was still out there letting people know what was going on in my now. That's the whole purpose and premise behind the show. Being able to talk about what's happening in the now. Okay. And sometimes now is not the time to do anything but go and lay down somewhere or sit down somewhere. And that's what we do. Okay. So again, remember, slow progression beats no progression. Okay. We do what we can without judgment. Okay. We have to be in a position of forgiving ourselves when we're not at our peak or at our best. Sometimes that's going to happen, and we have to, again, extend ourselves grace. That's important for us to remember. Okay? Next thing I want to talk about is that old nasty, nasty negative self-talk. We all go through that every now and then, where we beat ourselves up, where we get in our own way. And sometimes that keeps us from being able to move that needle a little more than we did the day before. It's those atomic habits. It's those little tiny things that we're doing each day. Okay. And so sometimes we get into that negative self talk. Oh, I'm no good. Oh, I'm never going to be able to do that. Oh, I can't do that. You know? And if you're putting yourself in a position where you're agreeing with yourself that you aren't worthy or that you're not capable or competent, that's where we have to start looking for ways to affirm ourselves. Okay, sometimes you may have to phone a friend and just say, girl, just I need to hear some positive things about my, what's something that you enjoy about spending time with me. Sometimes it's getting a little bit of a nudge from a loved one or a sibling or a child or a grandchild, from someone who knows you, that can kind of help to bring you back on track. Sometimes it's buying yourself flowers or doing something to affirm yourself. That's why we talk about having positive affirmations around you, so that way you can, see those things on the wall. I'm enough. I can do it. I'm the best, you know? Because the more that we see those things and we start putting those things into our ear gates and our eye gates, they begin to stick. And once they begin to stick, then we can again go back into that toolbox and draw on those things. So when we're not feeling our best, we can go back to something that makes us feel better. What's a picture of you maybe holding a trophy, or a picture of something that makes you happy, or a time that was joyful? Where is and is it in a place where when you're feeling down and you're speaking negatively on yourself, you can look back at that and say, oh wow, things are not so bad. Things are great. I am a good person. Look at this time that I won this award, or look at this time that you know I was spending with a family member or a friend, or look at my smile when I was hugging my grandchild. Those kinds of things. What are we doing to affirm ourselves? What are we putting in position so that when we are feeling negative, what's the thing that helps to cheer us up? Okay. And sometimes it may be that little treat, that food, that little ice cream or something that we get, but we just have to learn not to overindulge when we do that. But, find those small things. Like I said, it's the small things that matter. It's not those huge things that we try to think, those grandiose things that we feel like we have to do, in order to feel secure. Sometimes it's just those little things where we can just say, well, I'm just grateful for this. Sometimes it's just getting up and opening your eyes. I'm grateful for the breath of life, that I'm able to be here and see another day. That's a blessing. Like I said, but it's also another tool that's going to help me to not speak so negatively, because the Lord saw fit to bring his child into this world and to allow me to see another day. That's a blessing. That's something to be excited about. And so that, will help when we start talking about that negative self-talk. What are those things that we're doing and saying to ourselves that are going to help to affirm ourselves again? What are those positive affirmations that we're putting around so that we can easily see them and bring them back to ourselves and bring ourselves back to center, okay? Sometimes it's a matter of, for every negative thing that you say, every one negative thing that you say about yourself, think about 3 positive things that you can say on top of that to kind of refute those things and change that negative self-talk into something positive. So there are little ways that we can do that. You say that about yourself and then say, now I'm going to commit to saying, okay, so what are some 3 fantastic things about myself? What are 3 things about myself that I do like? And again, if you need assistance with that, have somebody help you out with that. Have a loved one or a person who is close to you to tell you, hey, this is what I see in you, and then write those things down and put it somewhere so that way you can see that that person is in agreement with you about something that's great about you. So that's a wonderful way of thwarting some of that negative self-talk. Okay. Another obstacle that we see a lot is competing with others. we're constantly feeling like we have to compete with others. That's a huge thing, especially in the realm of physical, habits. When we talk about losing weight and we're comparing ourselves to other people, well, I'm the same height as this person, and I'm the same weight as this person, and why does that person look like a Coke bottle and I look like an apple? It's genetics. We may not be built the same way. We may not eat the same way. We may not exercise the same way. So this person may be doing cardio where you may be doing strength training, and you may be toning. So your muscle structure, things may look different on you than they do on another person. There are so many variables. There are so many things that are little minor differences that make a world of difference in how we present ourselves. The only person that we should be in competition with is the former version of ourselves. It should never be that we're comparing ourselves to someone else, because we don't know all of the things that are going on in that person's life. We don't know all of the variables. We don't know what facades they're putting up. We don't know what things are true and not true. I think every time I think about that, I think about those people who act like they're on an airplane and they're looking through a toilet seat cover and they've got it on the side and they're looking and it looks like they're on an airplane and they're really outside just sitting on the ground with the toilet tissue. Not a toilet tissue, with a toilet seat in their hand, and they're looking through it and they're pointing it towards the sky, and it's making it look like they're in the clouds somewhere. And they're not being truthful. There are people who are going to allow you to see the parts of themselves that they want you to see, but you're not seeing the full picture sometimes. And we even do that ourselves. Think about some things that you're doing, or some of the I get, for lack of a better word, some of the falsehoods that we allow others to believe about us that just are not true. We want to be transparent, and that as we're moving in our wellness journey and towards that better version of ourselves, we do want to be as honest with ourselves. That's why I say know thyself. We want to be honest and true with who we are, and sometimes we're not. But it's when we get to that point of embracing who we are and seeing the value and in our worth, then we can start competing with ourselves and not with others, and looking at other people and saying, well, I'm just going to, I need to be like that person. Be careful what you wish for, because it may it may be that you want to be the exact opposite. You could be drowning in debt and you're walking around with all these fancy bags and shoes and things like that, and people don't know your struggle. People don't know that, one day you're in the house, the next day you can be in a car. Some people are one check away from poverty. Some of us don't know that. Some of us don't look the part, So it's a matter of getting in competition with ourselves. And that's where these habits form, that's where the habit forming comes into place. That's why we're trying to do things to become better versions of ourselves. That's what we're doing, again, to move the needle closer to that fact, where we're being a better version of ourselves. So we're not in competition with others, because that's going to discourage us. That's going to cause us to lose motivation and the will to keep moving forward, because we're expecting to have the same result as someone else. And that's just not the best way to go about this challenge and to go about life. There's always going to be someone who may be one step better than you. So why not just be? And so if you think if that's always going to be the case, you're never going to. When do you ever hit that goal of being on top? If you're always comparing yourself to someone else, when do you ever, quote unquote, win? You don't, because then there's always going to be somebody out there whose waist is going to be an inch smaller, or their breast is going to be an inch bigger, or there's always going to be something that you're going to find that you can do better. And that's where you see people who are going in and getting all of these surgeries and everything like that till they're unrecognizable. And in doing that, you lose yourself. So it's important to make sure that you're connecting with you and just striving to be the best version of you that you can be and not someone else. Okay? That's a rabbit hole that you'll go down and you'll never find your way out. You'll never find your way out if you're spending all of your time trying to compete with other people, trying to be other people instead of being uniquely you. Okay? Another thing that I want to talk about is having people around you who are not supportive. You have some people that are out here gaslighting people like no other. They're making you not believe in yourself. They're causing you to agree that you're not the unique and special and beautiful person that you are. So we want to focus on having people around us who are a support system, and that comes with setting boundaries. Are you setting boundaries about those things that you believe in and things that you are comfortable with? And are you communicating that to those who are around you? So that way they're partnering with you and not praying for your downfall. You hear people say, don't tell people everything that you're doing, because there are some people who are praying against everything that you're trying to do. And that's so. That is true. Okay. But we're talking about those people that you have in your inner circle, those people who are non-toxic, those people who are walking arm in arm with you because you've expressed to them that this is something that I'm seeking to do in my life. This is something that is going to be a part of my growth. And so I really would appreciate you walking with me and encouraging me, you know? And that comes from us being able to communicate. And I mean, I am blessed to have a supportive husband and my daughter and my granddaughter and my coworkers who I travel with, because they know this is what I'm trying to do. I'm on this quest to be on this wellness journey to be the best version of myself that I can be. And sometimes it requires the help from others. And so what I do is, I go to them when I travel with my coworkers. They already know I'm going to find a restaurant that Kim can eat at, that serves the foods that she likes. She doesn't eat pork or beef, so we're not going to go to the Rib Shack. We're not going to go to the you know hog heaven or whatever. We're not going to do anything like that. We're going to go someplace where there's a variety of foods so that we can all partake. And it's a matter of me being empathetic of others too, and knowing that they have desires too. It's not the Kim show. It's not all about me. It's all about making sure that I'm being empathetic of them as well. Okay. I know that they like pork and beef. I know that they like to eat other things like that. So I make sure that if I'm a person choosing a restaurant, that I'm gonna choose a restaurant that has all kinds of food so that we can all partake. And so that nobody's sitting in the corner feeling like they can't have what they want. So it goes both ways when we're talking about that. When we're talking about being supportive, just like you're a support system for people, and they're a support system for you, there has to be some reciprocation there. There has to be some flexibility there on your behalf as well, knowing that sometimes it's going to be difficult for people to adapt to some of the changes, especially if you've been doing things a certain way for a long time and now you're making changes. You have to give them an opportunity to adjust to the changes that you're making as well. So it's a process not just for you, but for the people that are affected by the changes that you're making, especially those who are living in your house. And so it's important, again, to make sure that those toxic people are not around, and that you're having communication and setting boundaries around those who you do have to interact with, because sometimes we don't have a choice about the people who are in our family or live in our home, or that may be close to us, where we can't just step away. But what can we do to try to create a bridge of understanding so that way, you know no one suffers as greatly, but we can try to come to some type of compromise. So that's important. Be firm, but be empathetic about the differences that you have with others and what it is that you're seeking to do. So that way you're creating peace. It's all about creating that peace, that inner peace, that peace that surpasses all understanding. How do we get to that place if we're not communicating those things that are the desires of our heart? And blowing the horn and you know asking for the call and saying, hey, I need this, I need this help, I need this assistance, I need somebody to walk with me as I'm going through this. And in the and as I'm walking with you, what is it that I can do to help to uplift and encourage and support you? you know or can you take this walk with me? It's something that's a very powerful part of our habit forming and of us being able to move forward. you know we're not an island, we're not just a person by ourselves, we're always going to have interactions with people. So what are we doing to create community around us? That's something that's critical. What is the community that we're creating? What is the environment that we're creating, so that you're becoming a product of an environment that's positive, that is going to uh, not only encourage and uplift you, but encourage and uplift others around you as well. Okay, we're connected. We're connected in that way. Okay. Another thing that can be an obstacle is being inflexible. Okay, being so set in our ways that we're not willing to make some of the changes that we need to make. One thing that you always hear, people say there's always one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way. Sorry, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to do things, and sometimes we have to be open to the possibilities of doing things differently and outside of the scope of how we normally do them. Okay, I remember when it was a big thing when they were talking about the can opener and how you're supposed to use it, and you just like, well, no, you put it on the side. They're like, no, you're supposed to put it on the top so the top doesn't fall down in the can. It was revolutionary. People were writing all kinds of comments like, I've been doing this forever. How long have you heard people say, I'm today years old when I realized this and that? Because we are so conditioned to do things a certain way that our mind was completely closed to doing things differently. And that's something that is so critical in our ability to be able to grow and to move into better versions of ourselves. We can't do that if we're inflexible, if we're not willing to look at the options and to say, you know what, maybe it's time to do things differently. Maybe it's time to see if there are other ways in which I can do this and be successful. Everything doesn't work for everybody. We're not exactly like we're not walking around all of us identical twins, and even identical twins are different. Okay, but it's what are we doing to uh, you know to figure out new and innovative ways to go about doing things. Think about your trailblazers, all these people who are coming up with all these things that we saw in the cartoons, in the Jetsons. We saw cars flying and everything like that. It's going to be coming soon. You can only imagine. But there was always that one person who just said, well, hey, if we tweak this or if we do this, maybe we can take it a step further. Okay? You may not be a trailblazer, but at least be a person who is open to the possibilities of doing something a different way. Sometimes that brings a level of excitement. Okay? Think about a routine that you may have in the morning. Okay? Say you put on your pants first, then you put on your shirt, then you put on your socks. Okay? How about changing it up every now and then? How about you put on your shirt first and then put on the socks and then put on the pants? Or however you do it, change it up a little bit. So that way you can say, oh wow, there's more than a way to do it. You're still going to be dressed, right? You're going to be dressed, but you're doing something a little different. And sometimes there's some excitement in that. And sometimes there's some way of saying, okay, well, maybe that may be a more efficient way to do it. Oh, I never tried it this way, so let me try it that way. So what's something that you can try or do differently, but still accomplish the same goal? Okay? It's out there. It's possible. Okay? And it's just a matter of not being inflexible, but being able to say, okay, I see there's a different way. I'm going to try it. Try it and see if you like it. Don't just assume, oh no, I'm not gonna like that because I always do it this way. But maybe that's why you're bored with it. Or maybe that's why it hasn't become a habit, because it's just not exciting enough for you to want to be able to do it all the time. Okay? Sometimes, if you can do it differently and it produces the same result, try it out and see which way is better. Because detours are going to come. Think about it. There are several ways for me to get to work, and sometimes I put on my GPS every morning, and sometimes it does not take me the same way every single day. It can take me a different way every single day, because it can foresee some of the obstacles before I can. So when I put it in my GPS to go to work, it may take me a different way. It kind of guides me, and where we don't always have that guide, we have the Holy Spirit as our guide, and we want to make sure that we're tapping into and listening to Him, and having our steps be ordered. Okay, but it's a matter of being obedient to that also, and saying, okay, I'm going to make the change. I noticed that there is more than one way for me to go. Let me try it and see if I like it. Sometimes I go a different way home because I like that scenic route. I like to be able to see a few things because I'm absorbing things around me. It's not always just the focus to get home. It's making a transition from work to home. And so sometimes having a beautiful scenery or doing something a little different before I get there helps me to make that transition into the next space that I have to go into. So all of these things become interconnected at some point, so that we can say, all right, I think I'm finally moving that needle. I think I'm finally getting to a place where I can grow, where I can expand, where I can do, as my dad always says, broaden my base. What am I doing to broaden my base? What am I doing to solidify the foundation that I'm standing on, so that I don't have so many cracks or areas where there are weaknesses where I can slip and fall, where I can trip, where I can hurt myself. So we have to start looking at some of these things, some of these obstacles, and seeing what are some things that we can put in place, or what are some things that we can start to put in our toolbox. So when we hit that stumbling block or that obstacle, we have something to reach into and prepare ourselves for. There are a lot of things going on around us, especially in this world and this climate and this season that we're in. How are we preparing ourselves? I think about the snowstorms that we had recently, the fires that have been raging in the West Coast. What are some things that we can do to prepare, as this may not be the last time that this happens? So even if we get past it, what are we doing to prepare moving forward? That's where those toolboxes come in. What's in your mental, physical, and spiritual toolbox that's going to assist you when you hit any of these obstacles? What are you going to reach back for? What's that scripture verse that you're going to reach back for? Okay, what is that book that you're going to read? What is that self-help tool that you can use that's going to help you, mentally, to be able to get through this? Because if you're having issues mentally, it can affect you physically. What are you doing to prepare your body so that if something happens to your body, you're in the best condition to be able to fight whatever that is? COVID is not gone. What happens if you obtain COVID? Or what happens if you fall and you break your hip? Are you going to heal better? Or are they not going to be able to do the surgery because you're overweight, or you're not in a condition for them to be able to treat what ails you? What are we doing to prepare ourselves in all situations? How are we building those toolboxes? But the one thing that I want to be clear on is that it's a process. Everything is a process that we're going through. It takes time. Habits take time to form. Some are faster than others. But the obstacles are going to come, such as life. Everything that we seek to do for the betterment, there's going to be some type of resistance that's going to take place. Okay? But with resistance comes strength. That's why you call it resistance training when you're exercising. The heavier the weights, the more resistance, the better the results, the stronger you're going to get. The more you read, the more you're You're activating that mental muscle so that way you can think and process things in a more efficient way. What are you doing to strengthen yourself? Are you partaking in your daily bread, the word of God? Are you reading your scripture and knowing it so that when you have times of adversity, you can go back and say, Lord, your promise was this or your promise was that? What are you doing to prepare yourself there? Okay, so all I'm going to say is the obstacles will come, but we have to be prepared for them. And remember that creating those small micro habits lead to overall success in our wellness journey. What are we doing to be prepared? Because the Bible says, be ye prepared in all things. Okay, so like I said, these are just a few of the obstacles that we may face when we're creating and forming our habits, but there are ways that we can persevere and move again that needle a little closer to being that perfect or that better version of ourselves. And that involves being okay with being perfectly imperfect. And that will do it for this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. Make sure that you check out the website. It is scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Also, the YouTube channel. Be sure again to like, follow, share, and subscribe. And you can click on any of the links to DM me and let me know what's going on in your now, how you're doing with the 365-day challenge, and any of the future shows that you'd like to see here on the How Now podcast. Again, in season 5. I love you all. Have a beautiful rest of your week and keep hanging in there with me if you are for the 365-day challenge, and follow me every day so that you know what's happening in my now. And until I see you all the next time, I say peace.